on HLN. But first, other headlines. Nearly 36 doctors have been arrested for illegally prescribing painkillers in 8 states. At least 2 of those doctors allegedly traded prescriptions for sex. 60 people total were arrested in this bust. One Tennessee doctor calls himself the, quote, rock doc. Prosecutors say he prescribed more than 1 million pain pills over 3 years. Another doctor accused of prescribing pills for his own use. I want to bring in HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson and former DEA supervisory agent Michael Levine. Michael, I have to start with you. How in the world did this fly under the radar? We're talking some of these people were writing blank checks when it came to some of these prescriptions. They were trading pills for sex. 1.5 million pills in 3 years. I mean, who wasn't policing these doctors?
Well, this is the type of case that I'm really used to, and that a doctor is prescribing bad scripts, et cetera, et cetera. How that happens, it's like any crime, and that is you need an informant. You need somebody to come forward and say, I got this. Or in the case of narcotic enforcement, you need an informant to come forward and say, look, for X amount of dollars, I can give you a doctor, which is the way it usually goes down. Now, the delay and why it did not happen here, I can't tell unless I look at the actual records. When I say records, I want to see the records of compliance, how they inspected him, all the totality of records before I could really offer an opinion as to how in this case, because every case is quite different.
Well, it makes you wonder, how many other doctors are there out there? That there aren't informants that are working on this. And Joey, what should these doctors be facing when it comes to charges and time, possibly?
Yeah, you know, it's first of all, it's a very significant issue. And remember, the opioid made it right? And so you look at the nature of what was happening here and how it could fuel and add to that, and it becomes problematic. I say that because it goes into the core of your question in terms of time. Obviously, illegally prescribing medicine, overprescribing medicine, writing false scripts, writing blank scripts are all troubling, are all crimes, and, you know, they have to be dealt with and are being dealt with by the United States. In these various states, because there are multiple states it was happening over, involving multiple doctors. In terms of time, there's no hard, fast rule of what it would be. What ends up happening, Lynn, is that they do the offense level, and that'll have a lot to do with the nature of what those doctors were doing, how many, what specific conduct they were engaged in, not only their crime of illegally filling out these scripts, were they doing blank scripts, were they the ones who were exchanging for sex or not, what are their past histories, and then, of course, in the federal sentencing guidelines, you get a score. But to be clear, I think it's not going to be lost on any judge at sentencing, and everyone's presumed innocent until their guilt is established. It's not going to be lost on any judge at sentencing that this is a major issue affecting major people, and you have to deter this type of conduct, and I think the judge will vet out punishments accordingly. And Michael, how do we regain trust? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think the opioid crisis, now embodied in a civil prosecution, is what it really amounts to. The notion of taking the manufacturers of drugs and publicly claiming that they in some way had any meaningful effect whatsoever on the opioid crisis, that is the heavy use of opioids, the amount of deaths, etc., flies directly contradictory to my now 5 decades of experience in every angle of this drug problem. That is, as a parent, as a brother, as an investigator who sat and dealt face-to-face with narcotics traffickers who were at the top of the chain, getting their thoughts about our entire approach. But I think it's a big mistake on several levels. First of all, going after the opioid, the opium or the opioid manufacturers, you really got to think about the effect it has on kids who face peer pressure to try drugs, in that it takes away their power of choice. We're saying it's the opioid manufacturers. I want to see how that's played out in court by real proof. because this is a politically.
Well, we may not see it because some of these Purdue Pharma, they just settled for $100+ million in Oklahoma to stop some of these lawsuits from getting to court. So we may not even see that. And the allegations against some of these drug companies are when it comes down to the advertising and how they are educating doctors on what should be prescribed, when, how much, and all of those things. It is such a larger conversation that I wish I had time to have more with you, Michael Levine and Joey Jackson, but we will be discussing this topic more, and we appreciate you being with us.
Always.
My pleasure. Thank you.